We are a poor nation. The bank coal will follow. They say firewood not for. They say we need to plant more trees. And they are not giving us money. We need to open our eyes, shine it, and tell the West. If you don't guarantee our finances and work with us to stop this, we are not going to comply with your climate change. They'll do it.
God have mercy upon us.
Welcome to GhanaPlusTv, the digital heartbeat of Africans' truth. This is more than a channel. It is a movement. A space where African stories are told by African voice. Raw, rare, and unapologetic. From culture to current affairs. From untold story to breaking news. We bring you the narrative that matters. The ones mainstream media skips. The one that shapes our identity, our power, our future. If you are looking for truth, pride, and perspective, you are in the right place. Subscribe, like, share, and stay connected. Let's own our story together.
But let me take you a little bit backward so that you will understand. When I said that Europeans came and took away every of our natural resources, everything we had, the ones they could not take away, they changed the names of the ones they could not take away. That was why I mentioned about the river Mutasinga, and then I talked about the river Niger, Amambala River. I talked about the Ibinokbabi. I talked about the 1949 Saka in Enugu. I talked about the Ekumeku War. I did not remember to tell you about the Battle of Adowa in Ethiopia that exiled Emperor Haile Selassie. After 2 years, he came back. You know, all these things were British or European drive that took this. The Battle of Adowa that happened in Ethiopia that exiled Emperor Haile Selassie was fought by these same Europeans, British, you know. But let me take you a little bit backward, Genesis, or even not, you know, somewhere along the middle. In 14th centuries, that is 1497, a man called Vasco da Gama from Portuguese toured around African seas through voyage, going to India, and then he discovered, no. You know, it is often said when people say discovery, it is lie when you say the white man discovered. The white man did not discover, they saw. But they told us in school when they were teaching us, they teach us discovery. They say they discovered. But the truth of the matter is that they did not discover. They saw. They came and saw. So Vasco da Gama in 14th centuries, a Portuguese, who was accompanied with over 170 men with about 4 ships to Africa, and then he saw the good things in Africa, the existence of mankind in Africa. He was going to India for greener pasture, for devouring, taking away mineral resources. It was on a business trip. And then when he saw this part of the people in Africa, then it was not called Africa. He went back to Portuguese and told his men that I have seen people. Okay, they said they discovered. He said he has discovered another ethnicity, or not the ethnicity, another land, another existence. And then that was how the Portuguese began to come. But don't forget that he came with over 170 men with ships. And then he went back and then began to crusade and say, I have seen people. Portuguese began to come into the land. Their sole aim of coming to the land is not to come and see these people. Their sole aim is to come and hypnotize, find out the natural resources and take them away and then capture the people. they succeeded. And that was how this thing began. And the Europeans began to see how they can hypnotize and took over. Now, when they came and began to mesmerize the land and begin to invade, Arab came and went to Kemet, which is present-day Egypt. Egypt is not an African name. Egypt is an Arabic name. Who gave them Egypt? Arab. When they invaded the land, Black Land, original name Kemet, otherwise known as Black Land. When they invaded the land, they began to sleep with the African women, the Kemet people, the Kemet women, and they began to give birth to colored people that looks like Arab because they wanted to take over entirely. Those who did not give birth to the kind of people they want, they exported them to China for sex slavery, of which history demonstrated that those women who were taken to China for sex slavery, when they become pregnant, the Chinese kill them. Because why? Chinese did not want to raise black in their land. So those whom Arab took over in the Kemet, they began to replace their colors, began to sleep with them, and then like that, they captured them and then renamed them, gave them the name Egypt. Egypt not be African name. It's an Arabic name. Just as Africa is not Al-Kebu land that was not named before Africa, was not an Igbo name, not an Hausa name, not an African name. It is still an Arabic name or Greek name. I don't know where that one comes from. Do you understand? Before the Europeans came and said, no, our name will be Africa. So they captured Egypt, and before you know, they renamed it Egypt. But be you known that before this time that this name was given Egypt, before it was Egypt as written in the Bible, it was not Egypt, and people has been existing there. So are you not now seeing the mystery inside this book called the Bible, that these people were called Egypt? Meanwhile, they were not Egypt. People had been existing there before the Arabs came and then changed their name from Kemet, Black Land, into Egypt. And then when Europeans wanted to write the book, they now took the name, original, the current name. So what happened to the existence of those people before the name was called Egypt? So why don't you look at that to query the Bible to say, but if these people are called Egypt in the Bible, but originally their history did not say that they are Egypt. It was somebody who renamed them and called them Egypt before I can write them for book. Now, I take it off. I just touch and brief. I take it off from there. Before the Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885, Africans who were taken away, Marcus Garvey, of whom Bob Marley said Buffalo was taken from Africa to the heart of America, had already been agitating against the racism and in favor of the blacks. And he said, blacks all over the world must come together. Know your existence so that you will know how to stand strong. A man called W.E. Du Bois, a black American, had already been, in 20 centuries, had already been agitating, telling the blacks, do not deny your children the history do not deny your children history in your schools, so that they will know their history. Now, W.E. Du Bois, who began to crusade for the history teaching on African children, became Western world's target. They began to look for him to kill because he is actually spoiling business for them. What did they do? They began to look for him to kill. It was the great man from Africa, otherwise known as Kwame Nkrumah, who invited W.E. Du Bois and said, come to Ghana, let us stay, so that these people will not see you to kill. If you remember, 1957, Chinua Achebe had already written in Things Fall Apart. He said, Those of you who read Things Fall Apart, maybe you've forgotten. If you have not read it, go and read it. He said, how can a man who don't understand our language come and tell us that our culture and tradition is bad when he doesn't hear what we are saying, when he cannot speak our tongue? If we succeed in chasing away the white man, what about our own brothers who have given their lives into the hand of the white? That is the problem we are facing today. We have succeeded in chasing away the whites, but our own brothers who have given their lives into the religion of the white man and the hypnotization of the white man, those are the people we are fighting, struggling for today. Now let me take you down to Berlin Conference that happened in year 1884 to 1885 in Berlin, when the Europeans sat in Berlin to discuss on how to parcel out Africa, divide and rule. They divided Africa into different parts, created enmity, created borders for us, and created enmities here and there. And they began to, all of them began to come and pick and select. Europeans came, British came, Portuguese came, Britain came, took Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya. Portuguese came, took their own. Arabs came, took their own. German came, but they didn't stay too long. Italy came, as you may know, the Battle of Adowa. Italy came, but Ethiopia did not allow them to stay. America came. Liberia became the first country in Africa that regained her independence, while Ethiopia was never colonized because they did not accept the Italian colonization, which resulted in the Battle of Adowa. France came and took their own, and then everybody took. Now, each of these colonial masters made sure that he gave you two things as his slave: religion and language. So those who were colonized by France, you must speak French. Those who were colonized by British, you must speak English. Those who were colonized by Portuguese, you must speak Portuguese. Those who were colonized by Arab, you must speak Arab. And your religion must be Christianity, Voodoo, Islam. So, when Africans who began to agitate for the emancipation of their nations, when they rose, those who had opportunity of, exposure and then Western education decided that no, we are going to regain our independence. What happened? Ghana got their independence in 1957. On that day, when Ghana gained their independence, the greatest man of all, Kwame Nkrumah, he said, Ghana is free and can never be colonized again. But the independence of Ghana means nothing until the whole of Africa is free. We moved down. 1960, Nigeria got their independence and became a sovereign state in 1963. Congo got their independence in 1961. But look at what happened. When all these agitators began to get their independence in their separate ways, the Western world did not rest. They began to plan to replace these good indigenous citizens of Africa who want the best for Africa. They begin to plan for their downfall, to replace them with gullible citizens. Kwame Nkrumah was imprisoned. An allegation was laid on him for mismanagement of funds. That was what the Britain lured some of her people, or his people, to. First of all, Britain was not happy that the man renamed Ghana from Gold Coast to Ghana. Problem don't they? They saw that this man, if we leave her, we will not achieve our aim in their land. For changing this name from, we'll give them Gold Coast to Ghana. They plotted him down. What happened to Samora Machel? What happened to Samora Machel of Mozambique? Before you know it, he was assassinated by European plot. Patrice M. Lumumba, who got independent in Congo, what happened to Patrice M. Lumumba? He was taken and was replaced. Now, they begin to replace them with people that they can take away from. How many of you remember Gilles Baudel Bokassa of Central Republic Africa, who was replaced? And then he murdered little children because they did not buy school uniform from his wife. That is Gilles Baudel Bokassa. That's Gilles Baudel Bokassa of Central Republic Africa, who murdered little children because they did not buy clothes from his wife. How many of you will forget Mobutu Sese Seko Kukubendu was a banger who was used by the Western world to take away his own, who brought independence to Congo, and then he was assassinated by the Westerners. Like I said, I just want to be brief, just hit some of points so that you people will understand. Those of you who came and began to contest over my last video, when I mentioned some of the battles that was fought in Nigeria through Christianity and Islam, Western world and the Arab world. So there are a lot of things to be learned as far as the existence of Africans are concerned. That where we are today is not where we are supposed to be, and where we were yesterday, which was where we are supposed to be, was taken away and placed us in a place. Now Nigeria, Africa is like a fish. Africa is like a fish. When you take a fish away from the river and place it on the ground, what happens to that fish? You begin to see the fish shaking, 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 shaking. Why is it shaking? It is shaking because you have removed it from its original culture and placed it in a strange culture where it is not familiar with. That is why it is struggling to see how it can get back to her culture. So the fish keeps struggling. The moment the fish is thrown into her culture, or his culture, or its culture, 1 second that you introduce that fish into its culture, you will not see that fish again. Because why? You have returned the fish into a familiar culture. So Africa is like that fish who was taken away from its culture and placed in a place where it does not know going front, it does not know going back. So it is confused and asking, where do I go from here? They now give you Bible and say, this is where you go from here. So until a fish is returned into its culture, the fish is confused, and the fish, if not returned, eventually will die because you have introduced it into a culture that it is not familiar with. So until Africa is returned back to its culture, we will continue hovering around a civilization that we are not familiar with, a culture that we are not familiar with, and that is where we are going to die. So we need to trace our own root, our culture, so that we can be able to. Person where reach a house, no, they look for road. Though. Somebody who is traveling from a distance, travel, they look for an address. The moment you arrive at your address, you know they look for road again. No? So we need to go back to our home so that we will not look for road. The reason we are here today now, we are looking for road. We are looking for a way out. Some Nigerians, Africans are traveling outside because we are not in our house. So people are traveling out, looking for a road, a way out, a way to succeed. But if you arrive at your house, if you're in your house, you go out when you want to go out at your leisure time. You're not going out under pressure. But today, Africans are leaving the shore of the land, the shore of the seas, out of pressure. Not because they are, those who live out of this country voluntarily or out of, let me just go and come. They go come back. They don't have business abroad. They just go and just come back. But those who left out of pressure are those who are still in abroad, who comes, they visit and run away again. because they left out of pressure. So we need to go back to our home so that we can be able to live when we want to live. Like I said, I just want to be brief in this history. But when I am on my history class, we will now talk more. Thank you. For those of you who did not talk well on my last video that I dropped, I seem like I just open on an eye small. Yeah? Then subsequent time, we will now know where to go to. Thank you.